us where we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Make us where we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew.
Welcome to the Westside Unitarian Universalist congregation. I am Chris Darnell, a member of the worship team, and it is my great joy to be gathering with you on this day. We've got Scott Farrell, Jim Angel, Marion Key, John Henson, and Larry Jones providing music today. Jim Angel is actually pulling double duty, as he will also be lighting our chalice. And then look who we got back over here. Reverend Carter will be doing our Time for All Ages and preaching today. Marco Deppe and Nate Mesnard are our tech experts, bringing us in the sanctuary together with those joining us remotely. And for the gifts of all these folks, we are grateful. It is a blessing to be able to worship together and to be here with all of you today. Now, if you are here with us for the first time or first time in a while, especially you summer UUs, we are so glad that you are here to share in this time, to make some space in your life, to attend to your heart and your spirit, to come together in community. Please visit our website or scan the QR code on the pews to fill out a Getting to Know You welcome form so that we can send you our weekly electronic newsletter, The Westside Week, which is full of information about upcoming worship services and other congregational activities, both in person and online. Everyone, let's gather after the service for conversation and community so that we can catch up with one another and greet our newcomers on the sunny and smoky final Sunday summer service of 2023. Also, special note, since we do keep the windows open, we do have N95 masks available, and they are in the where you came in earlier today. So, we gather today from many locations, and we take this moment to particularly acknowledge that our congregation resides on the traditional territory of the Duwamish people. In this acknowledgement, we recognize the Duwamish heritage imbued in the mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines that surround us. May we nurture our relationships with our coastal Salish neighbors, especially the Duwamish people, and our shared responsibilities to this place. Let us take a moment to offer our humble respect to this place and its peoples, and renew our commitments to work of authentic reconciliation. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever and however you love, however your body moves and your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome in this faith community. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has no test of faith, no creed, or oath to swear. We have instead the promises we keep and we make to one another, commitments we keep to healing a hurting world within and beyond these walls. So, it is good to see familiar and new faces out there in the congregation. Let's take a few moments to greet those around you in any way that feels safe. A smile, a wave, or even an elbow bump. Do you want to call them back, or do you want me to call them?
I always love to hear such enthusiastic greetings. I know I'm happy to be back amongst all of you and seeing so many lovely faces. So thanks for sharing this morning with me. Our opening words are by Rebecca Edmiston Lange. Come in. Come into this place which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all of your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, and the compassionate is expected. Come into this place. Together, we make it a holy place.
In each week's service, we invite a member of our congregation to light the chalice of our shared Unitarian Universalist faith. Today, our chalice lighter is Jim Angel. So we've asked our chalice lighters to respond to this question, and it's been our question for a while. What gives you hope? So Jim, what gives you hope?
Thank you for the chance to share what gives me hope. There have been many searching and inspiring remarks shared here. This past year, I've found myself engaging with hope in reading and meditation, and in answering myself, what gives you hope, I found I had to first settle on a passable, personal definition of what hope may mean. One perspective that has surprisingly offered relief in moments of suffering is the idea that hope is actually an unhelpful concept. Hope as a form of resisting things as they are, wishing, hoping for something to be different, or hoping for something to be better. This version of hope often means me wishing things were more the way that I want. And that can be a challenging, painful place. I appreciated the calming aspect of turning away from hope. Things are exactly as they're meant to be. Let go of wishes and wants. Be grateful for what is. Enjoy. And as useful as an acceptance practice has been for me, in those very moments of stillness, this definition of hope as a refusal to accept reality feels incomplete, even cynical. In such embodied moments, aware of a real and flowing connection to others, questions remain. What is this? What is the right attitude? And here, a gentler concept of hope takes shape for me. This hope is not so much longing or wish. It does not even seem to be from me. It is an effortless, glimpse-like orientation, a sense of the way, that home is the path and I am on it, and together we are facing the right direction. Becoming. Hope is in the connection. And conscious of this hope, suffering no longer points to a struggle to figure out what I think needs to change because my attitude has changed. And from this relaxed place, my thoughts and actions incline to be useful. So what gives me this naturally optimistic hope? And that is choosing faith and forgetting it over and over again, and then choosing to pick it back up, choosing to think about others, to be quiet and listen, to let go of thoughts and intentions, choosing to embrace spiritual practices and to go where they lead with a loving heart.
As Jim lights our chalice, please join me in speaking the words of our congregational affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant with one another.
Good morning, everyone. So in preparing for this service and thinking, what hymns should we do? The subject today is going to be more universalism. So I thought, let's go back to some old-timey kind of stuff that feels like traditional hymns. And actually, in the birth of Unitarian Universalism, that's all there was. Both Unitarians and Universalists before the merging happened. So we're going to start off our service this morning by singing "Bring, O Morn, Thy Music," which is hymn number 39 in your books, and the words will be up here as well.
Thank you. It is now time for all ages. Reverend Carter will be sharing a meditation today. Anyone of any age who wishes to see or hear Carter better, please come down to sit on the floor or in the front pews. Come on down, come on down. I know I have two people that could come down. Get on down here, come on.
There's lots of space up here. That is loud.
Now, while we gather, let me tell you about the RE, the religious exploration activities going on this morning. Today, we will have a mixed age group open to children, youth, and parents, led by our Director of Religious Exploration, Jade Wild, and experienced RE teacher, Amy Hansbrinkati. There'll be adventures in getting to know each other and to plan for the coming year together. All who want to participate, just join the train heading down to the social hall after the time for all ages, and if needed, the nursery is available for little ones, but I don't think I see very many out there today. But if need be, we have activities for them as well. So.
Okay, so like Chris said, we are doing a meditation, and this is because I love meditation. So if you get to know me, we'll do lots of meditations together. Is this feeling a bit harsh for meditation time? Is this better? No. Yeah? Okay. So most of the time when I meditate, I'm sitting on the floor cross-legged, like many of you are, and I sit really still and just try to feel that stillness, focus on my breath. But there are lots of ways to meditate. You can walk and meditate. You can share a meditation with a friend. And so since we're here together, we can share meditation. And We are going to bring lots of awareness to our bodies as we do this, and I'm going to stay standing just so you can see the actions I'm doing, but you can sit in any way that is comfortable for you and follow along. So this is a body meditation. It is a blessing as well. I adapted it from the Reverend Lisa Bovee Kemper. And so first, let's just take a moment to get comfortable. Some people like to cross their legs. Some people like to put their feet on the ground. Maybe you want to sit up straight. If this is uncomfortable, you can even lie down. There's lots of freedom in this space. And so let's just take some deep breaths. In and out. In and out. In and out. And so, as you're comfortable doing, I am going to invite you to touch your hands to a place on your body. And I'll show you where and how. And each time, I want you to check in with this place on you, notice how it feels in this moment, and offer it a moment of care. And everyone's body is different, and we can have lots of different feelings within our bodies, about our bodies, and so only follow my actions as is comfortable and easeful. If you prefer, you may just sit and do a mental body scan, but we are offering a moment of care and blessing to our bodies. So let's begin with our heads. We can put our hands here. You can use two hands, I only have one. May you be blessed with wisdom and understanding. May your mind take you far on your journey. May you always ask good questions and be guided closer to the truth. And so our throats now. May you be blessed with a clear, strong voice. May your words be honest and caring and never used to hurt another. May you tell the truth with love, even when it is hard. And now our hearts. May your heart be full and blessed with love. May your heartaches be equal to your joys. Your heart is a strong organ, and it will be with you until the end of your time in this body. May you trust its wisdom. And now our abdomens, the place of reproduction with our belly buttons. May you always remember that you are a beloved child, part of an unbroken chain of life from your ancestors to you. May your belly button remind you of this. And may you always know that your body is sacred and wonderful and belongs to you alone. May your life be a celebration of this. And now our hands, maybe we want to clasp them together. When you were a baby, you first came in contact with the world through your hands. Before you could see more than a few feet in front of your face, you grasped the finger of your loved ones. Your hands catch you when you fall. They reach out to comfort others. May your hands be gentle and strong. May your hands help you do the work that is yours to do in the world. And so now we're going to wrap our arms all the way around our bodies in a full hug and take another deep breath here. May you be blessed on your journey as your body carries you wherever you must go. May you always remember that you are a whole person, that each of these parts works together, and you are never alone. Let us take one more moment to shower blessings upon our whole selves, body, mind, and spirit. One more deep breath in and out. You saw someone doing this. We can shower those blessings. May you be guided by compassion and truth, justice and love. May you find rest on the journey when you are tired, and may you remember where you came from. May you be blessed in all things and carry these blessings with you wherever you go. And so now we are going to sing out our young ones to the RE programming. And as they do so, we can sing As You Go, which will be on the screen.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit and face the inner aisles and bless these beautiful beings as they go on their way.
the spark of your precious love. We hold you in our love as you go.
In a moment, we will engage in a collective act of generosity known as our offering. When we take time to actively support Westside UU congregation and its many ministries. With our gifts by text, check, or cash, each month we choose a community organization to share 1/3 of our undesignated offering gifts. That is, those donations not designated as your pledge contributions. For the month of August, our community giving recipient is Amara. Amara is a nonprofit organization committed to positive long-term outcomes for children and families experiencing the child welfare system in King and Pierce counties in Washington. Their mission is to drive systemic change, promote healing, and advance racial and LGBTQIA equity by offering innovative programs and services to families engaged in the foster care and to adoptees and families post-adoption. Each year, they serve 1,500 children, parents, and families in Washington. Now, before we move forward, I always have a little bit of a story. So, you know me, I always have something to say. So, I have a personal connection to this because for 4 years, I actually worked as a child protection social worker, both in Southwest Missouri and Southwest Minnesota, both Southwest. And I have to say, that was the hardest job I could ever imagine. The individuals you worked with were some of the most compassionate, but also needed a lot of support. And the thing that's really important is that Amara works with 1,500 children, but at any given time, there could be 6,500 children within the child welfare service. And they could only do so much because they're a nonprofit. And when I worked child protection, those voids where nonprofits could not step in, those were filled by for-profit organizations. And I'll tell you right now, those kids did not get the best of care. When profit is put over people, you do not get the best outcomes. So we need to support organizations like Amara, nonprofit organizations that step up and support those extra 3,000 to 5,000 children at any given time. So, because our Sunday worship schedule has switched to twice monthly, our next steps in this professional ministry, there are fewer Sunday opportunities to extend our generosity to the community partners. So, please consider increasing your contribution in each service so that we can continue to support the work of these worthy organizations. You can give by text by sending a message with the $ and amount you want to 616-404-4171. If you need to update your payment information, text update to that same number. For folks here in the sanctuary who prefer to give your gifts by cash or check, the greeters will move among us shortly. If you'd like your gift to be recorded as coming from you, please use one of the envelopes in the pews. Now, please join us in this gift of music, Will the Circle Be Unbroken?
While Jim's getting set up here, I just wanted to say how much fun it has been to just be sharing music with him. He's a wonderful person and just has such a great heart, and I love his musicianship. It's just such a gift to us here. We have a lot of people here who are so gifted, and I really enjoy sharing their talents. I love experiencing them myself, but I love sharing them with all of you. So here we go.
Come a
sang songs of childhood, hymns of faith that made us strong, ones that Mother Maybell taught us. Hear the angels sing along. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky.
Thank you to everyone for giving as you're able to support Westside and Amaro. Your generosity of time, treasure, and presence are gifts that sustain us as a community.
Each time that we gather as a congregation, we take time to share the joys and sorrows of our hearts, to connect and share what matters most to us. Jennifer Disotell would like to announce the birth of her first grandchild. Nova Ray Sanchez Disotell was born Tuesday night to her daughter Amelia. While Nova is doing well right now, she will need surgery to fix a heart defect in the coming year. So please send lots of love to this family. New mother Amelia is doing very well, and the entire family is filled with joy with the arrival of this new person that they can love. And so this morning, for our pastoral prayer, I want to offer all of us a blessing for this wildfire season. I think it's very much on all of our minds and hearts these days. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, this is a time when we need to feel some sense of relief, of rest, amidst the despair of heat and smoke. And mostly, Spirit of life, this world needs a blessing. May all the creatures, all the trees and bushes, animals and insects, and the dear, dear humans we have lost to the flames be blessed. May their journey beyond this world be easy. May they find peace. For all of our neighbors, all of us who are mourning, may this grief, at the very least, help us touch that which is deeply human about us. May no one be alone in these sorrows. May firefighters be blessed with safety, with the tools they need to help this hurting world, to rescue all that they can rescue. May they know that theirs is sacred work. And science writers and news reporters and government officials and emergency responders and healthcare workers and all who reach out in a spirit of mutual aid, may they too be guided by a sense of duty to the sacredness of life. May their work be done in love. Bless all of us who must breathe in the smoke, especially those least able to escape it. May we find the tools we need to protect ourselves. May our lungs hold strong until we can breathe more easily. Spirit of life, please bless the burnt ground, the darkened skies, and the devastation in our hearts. Help this hurting world to find ways to heal, and one day in the future to grow lush and moist again. May all this be so, and amen. And so we can continue this moment of silence, followed by music, to hold in the tender vessel of our loving care all the joys and sorrows present in this room, both known and unknown. let us also in this moment extend our compassion to lift up and honor the lives of our neighbors throughout the wider human community.
This morning, we have a reading written by Reverend Alex Jensen. Now, for you Unitarians out there, this reading is unusual. It personifies salvation. So I'm asking for people to listen to it openly and generously, and that it will be returned to in the sermon. Okay? Don't argue with salvation when it arrives on your shores. Don't try to dismiss it or deny it. Give it your undivided attention. Do not be ashamed of how or why or when you found it. Your journey here has been sacred. Greet salvation as an old welcome guest. Meet it not with fanfare or pomp. Instead, put the kettle on to boil, pull up a chair, and let it speak life to you. Find the tender parts of your body and soul that are warmed by its words. Don't argue with salvation when it arrives at your door. Bid it wide welcome. Don't be ashamed of where the path has led. Do not be embarrassed from all of the detours or missed plans. Don't be shy about what it is that feeds you, that nourishes and refreshes your soul. Don't be ashamed with how it greets you instead, welcoming you in its warm embrace. How could it be anything different? Don't argue with salvation when it stirs in your heart, when it brings you to act for others, when it calls you to street corners and picket lines. Don't question it too harshly, to the point of missing it as it passes through. Relish it with every glimpse. Savor it with every taste of hope and good news. Don't be afraid to bring that blessed good news to others, to let your beautiful body carry its light through heavy burden. Don't be afraid when its saving power destroys just as much as it rebuilds, uplifts, and renews. Don't argue with salvation when it finds you when you least expect it. In an empty parking lot, on the kitchen floor, in the eyes and arms of a beloved. Don't try too hard to count its many ways. They're immeasurable. Don't exhaust yourself with naming it in words that fail to grasp it with loose fingers. Surrender in those moments when you find yourself in its presence. Yield to it with an open clay heart ready for molding. Don't try to shut it out too soon or run too far from it. It won't make you stay. Indeed, it can't. but it sure wishes to welcome you home. Don't argue with salvation when it saves your life, when it harbors from your soul from great pain and harm, when it stays with you in the midst of the storm. Don't give up on it too soon if it arrives a bit later than expected. I promise it's working on it. Don't be too angry with it if it doesn't look like what you'd expect. Love it as you'd love your best self. Love it as your worst self. We could all use some more grace. Serve it with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Don't worry about its fragility. If it truly can take or bear the trials ahead of you and already in your midst, it's so much stronger than you think.
So this next song, the gift of love, at its core, it's from 1 Corinthians in the Bible, and I'm actually spent a lot of time with the Bible over my days in my study of comparative religions, and there are some portions of it that are just exquisite in the way they speak to my soul. Some of the other stuff I can sort of like saying, not so much. But this 1 Corinthians is just so beautiful. And I actually sang this song for my mother's funeral a number of years ago. And Jim and I are going to sing it for you today. My love profess, but not begin by love within. The prophet soon turns strangely thin.
From
Such a good song and very universalist. So yes, today we are talking about salvation, which is not something we talk a lot about as Unitarian Universalists, even though it's somewhat central to our history. And I want to ask, what was your first reaction on hearing the story today or the reading for today? Perhaps it was a bit confusing, or maybe you felt a touch of discomfort. I admit this personification, especially of salvation, is a bit hard for me to wrap my mind around, but I like the challenge of it. And salvation is really a loaded word, especially in our culture. Its meaning in this text is ambiguous. Don't argue with salvation when it arrives on your shores. Don't try to dismiss or deny it. Give it your undivided attention. Do not be ashamed of how or why or when you found it. Your journey here has been sacred. Yes, the salvation portrayed in this reading is one that we encounter. It's not just something that we experience. It's a moment of greeting, of meeting in the middle of our journey. It continues, greet salvation as an old welcomed guest. Meet it not with fanfare or pomp. Instead, put the kettle on to boil. Pull up a chair and let it speak life to you. Find the tender parts of your body and soul that are warmed by its words. This form of salvation offers us life and makes us think of warmth, reciprocal relationships that feel really deeply human. This is a salvation that is caring and that we are in relationship with. It's located here and now. And so I think that's what feels very UU about this, is that it's this human experience that we don't have to go searching elsewhere for. It happens in our homes with a cup of tea. And I think it's worth investigating more. I am no means an expert on this topic, but I have studied a little bit, and I'm very curious to learn more as the years go on. Historically and today, universal salvation has been something that UUs have had a lot of different relationships to. So I have an attempt at a thesis, but it is not a manifesto. This is a learning process. And I encourage all of you to join me and take this time and your own time, personal time if you wish, to contemplate what salvation means to you and how your spirituality calls you to approach it. A large part of my interest in thinking more deeply about salvation comes from conversations I've been having recently with non-UUs who are curious to learn more about this faith. And I'll say this especially happens when I'm speaking to people who have either come from a very religious Christian background or a totally non-religious background, who have somewhat rigid ideas of what religion is. This is definitely when I see this come up. It happened a lot when I was in France. People are either Catholic or secular or a mix of both and not much else, at least the French people I was meeting. And so I have this elevator speech that I give that answers a lot of the initial questions people have about Unitarian Universalism. And it's maybe a little bit longer than yours, but I'm a professional at this, so people let me have a long elevator speech. And so basically I say Unitarian Universalism has roots stretching back pretty much as long as Christianity has existed, as long as dissent against the Christian mainstream has existed. A lot of our ideas have been around. And this was especially true in the Protestant Reformation. There were Unitarians and Universalists with a lowercase u. They weren't formally denominations, but they wrote about their beliefs. Some of them were killed for their beliefs. And then in America, in colonial America, during the time of basically Calvinist Puritan reign, there were people who started resisting the beliefs in their community and started to form these denominations with a capital U, Unitarian and Universalist, both officialized around the early 19th century. And so basically, Unitarians believe that God is one, they reject notions of the Trinity, and Jesus is And mostly we believe human who was really divinely inspired. He's a prophet, he's a teacher, but he's just as divine as each of us. We have this siblinghood under the divine. And Universalists focused more on the afterlife. They believed in universal salvation, universalist, that God is love and a loving God would not send people to hell. And then I talk about contemporary Unitarianism and the merging of the two denominations. We've become a lot more humanist, less explicitly Christian. We've incorporated wisdom from a lot of religious traditions. But there's this point that a lot of people get stuck on, which is, if you're not Christian, if a lot of people don't believe in God, then what does salvation have to do with anything? And I think this is a really good question that people have a lot of curiosity about. And the short answer would be that these questions truly were more relevant when we were explicitly Christian, and nowadays we think of it a little less literally. In the present context, most UUs do not believe that we will be transported to a literal heaven, but rather we want to work to create beloved community right here in this world, for ourselves, for future generations. And there's a lot of people with a lot of ideas about what beloved community is. But basically, we believe there is hope to this question of human destiny, that all people, given the right circumstances, are capable of experiencing wholeness and well-being. And some of the details might not resonate with everyone, but my assertion is that as a whole, ours is not a cynical religion. The Universalism shows this ultimate optimism in the human spirit. And so to understand this fundamental optimism, I want to introduce you to a figure named Hosea Ballou. Ballou was an early Universalist preacher. He started preaching when he was like 19, just out of his own conviction against the Calvinist doctrine of his community, where he grew up as a farmer in New Hampshire. He wrote this book in, I believe it was 1805, that takes readers systematically through his beliefs and really formed the bedrock of a lot of Universalist theology that we rely on today. It is titled A Treatise on Atonement, in which the finite nature of sin is argued, its cause and consequences as such, the necessity and nature of atonement, and its glorious consequences in the final reconciliation of all men to holiness and happiness. But we can just call it a treatise on atonement. That's fine. So in this text, Ballou cites examples in the New Testament that speak directly of Jesus' mission to save all of humanity. There's so many places in the Bible where they talk about this is for everyone. This is about all of humanity and not just a select few. And so these, and also ones that declare the boundless love of God, sharply contrasted with the messages he was getting in his church. He was being taught by his father, who was a preacher, and when he went to church, that God was really angry. And this angry God demanded infinite punishment for finite sin. However, his reading of the Bible, Hosea's, led him to reject the idea that a benevolent God would create this kind of justice system. And he rejected the idea that Jesus' death was meant to cleanse humanity, and rather he viewed it as an act that released the great spirit of love into the world. And the spirit of love is what enables humans to better learn the ways of goodness and reconciliation. And so, according to Ballou and many of his contemporaries, human goodness is inherent, and humans are also flawed because they don't have perfect wisdom of love and goodness. They're not the divine themselves. And humans can seek love without the looming threat of punishment, and it is in human nature to do so. Sin was just a matter of an act of separation from God, a distancing from that inherent spark of goodness that was already present. It encompasses any action where we turn away from our internal moral compass or engage in actions that harm our human community. And even when we do make mistakes like this, they are finite. The separation is somewhat of a punishment itself. We are farther from that spirit of love, and so there's no need for infinite eternal punishment for what we do in this lifetime. Hosea Ballou believed that there is no sin great enough for God to turn away from us or to cease loving us. And there are great sins, but God is stronger than that. And God's omnipotence includes the power for unbound love. So if you're like me, you might be thinking, okay, cool, this is great stuff. I'm glad to know Hosea Ballou was out there offering an alternate to the fire and brimstone messaging that is common in so much Christianity. But maybe I'm not a Christian, so what am I supposed to take from this? For me, Ballou's affirmation of divine love without bounds, available to all, is at its core a profession of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, which Unitarian Universalists hold as a core value. And I think it is difficult and important spiritual work to really understand and integrate the truth of inherent worth and dignity. We spend much of our lives inundated with messages from outside, full of judgments from inside, that erode our sense of our own worth and dignity or that of others. While this is not unique to us as a faith tradition, this message of inherent worth and dignity can often be countercultural. As a lifelong UU, I feel lucky to have had a little bit of a head start on this spiritual work, but only a little bit. I'm far from finished. But I do believe from personal experience that understanding inherent worth and dignity can help us to love better. For much of my childhood, I didn't feel that much different from my peers religiously. Growing up in the South, families go to church, and my church was just one of the options. Didn't seem that special or weird, it was just church. But eventually, as I started to grow up, the pains of adolescence started to settle in. I began to notice that my church was different in that it offered me something many of my peers weren't getting. I started to feel like I had this secret superpower. It was a tool that I could use like a force field around me to protect myself and maybe even my friends. And that was that I had a very steady knowledge based in my faith that adults around me were reminding me over and over that I and everyone I knew had this divine spark. There is this essential part of each of us that has potential for goodness. And potential, it doesn't mean we're always perfectly good. We are capable of being deeply loving. It's this knowledge that we are all worthy of sharing our spark with the world, of loving and being loved in return. And sometimes it can sound really cliche and overly simple. I think that sometimes we hear it so often we forget how powerful that message is. But it can be radical. It is our life-saving good news that can hold us in storms and remind us of our inherent wholeness even when we feel broken. It is a truth that so many people in this world are regrettably never offered. And so this was a good news that many people I loved, especially a lot of my peers in high school, needed. My queer friends who love differently than their families or communities believed was good or right. My friends whose brains worked differently than others. My friends who were raised in cold and unsafe homes. They all had been told in different ways and from different sources that there was something deep inherent about them that was wrong and broken. And who knew how or if they could ever be made right again. There are so many ways that the world around us tries to tell us that something is wrong with us. The advertising industry knows this and uses it against us all the time. And there are many churches out there who create whole theologies around this message, that there is something broken about us, there's this original sin that's on our souls forever, and all we can do is hope that God is going to forgive us. And this message creates so much suffering, so much unnecessary suffering, and its division and separation in the human community. When we are told that there is something wrong with us, or maybe we start to believe there's something wrong with that person over there, we are living a daily battle with ourselves, and we struggle to share our gifts with the world. So the superpower that my church gave me did not make it so that I could magically fix my friends or all of their problems, or even my own. I can't just offer a single revelation that everyone has inherent worth and dignity, and then poof, we never know brokenness again. It does not even mean that we can love each other into feeling okay sometimes. It just means that we can love each other fiercely. I could love my friends fiercely and from a place of profound honesty that honored their essential goodness. It meant that I could be one person in the world to celebrate their divine spark and to know the goodness and love that they were capable of. And this is something that we try to do when we come together in church also. I've heard so many stories in my life of Unitarian Universalists who were saved by this kind of love, by this good news. And maybe this resonates with your faith journey. People enter into our churches, our congregations, and discover a chance to connect with that innate wholeness. Church is a space where we can learn how to better honor the divine spark in others, and where we can experience in our bodies loving and being loved in return. And of course, I must say that the truth of inherent worth and dignity of all does not negate or diminish the evils that humans perpetuate in this world. Humans are capable of great evil, even when they have that divine spark in them. If anything, the belief in inherent goodness renders such acts even more unconscionable. To willfully inflict harm on another person is to deny their wholeness, and at the same time, it severs our own connection to wholeness. And yet, importantly, denying the wholeness of ourselves or others does not extinguish that wholeness. It only distances ourselves from it. It is still there and can be found again through the work of healing and reconciliation. And this is why we talk so much about the importance of allowing ourselves to make mistakes, allowing others to make mistakes. When we've caused harm or hurt another person, it does not mean that we are irredeemably bad and must be punished. No matter what internal shame tries to tell us, we are still whole even when we've screwed up, even when we're not feeling so good about ourselves or someone else isn't feeling so good about us. It doesn't mean that punishment is the right answer. It's not going to fix or undo what we've done. If our God is not punitive, then I don't think we should be either. Rather, we need to acknowledge our errors and work toward growth. This is an act of testimony to the possibility of change. We do not believe in an eternal tally of rights and wrongs, any kind of score sheet to be balanced at the end of our lives. Rather, we are on an eternal journey toward interconnectedness and greater wholeness. For me personally, salvation is less about what happens when we die, but the miracle that we get to live into the beloved community here on earth and in these very bodies. And it's the knowledge that each of us has inherent worth and dignity that helps me reach out for beloved community, helps me believe that it is possible. This idea helps me to love my friends and neighbors more fiercely, no matter how much we ache, no matter how many times our dignity is ignored or denied. I try my best to remember that our worth is not determined by our accomplishments even. Neither our successes or our failures. It's not because of the things we have or the work we've produced or the way that we look or anything that our lives of striving have achieved for us that we are good. We are good just for being. We are worthy because we are here, we messy humans with a divine spark in each of us amidst all that messiness. Worthy always of being loved, no matter what. And we are saved each time we remember this. This is, I think, the salvation that makes sense to me at this time. May we, throughout our lives, in all we do, remember this. And as we journey forth to greater love and wholeness, may we remember that we journey not alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carter. It's wonderful to have you back. Thanks. We've missed her a lot. It's wonderful to have her here. Just a couple of little things before we sing our final hymn. I had a spiritual teacher in Mount Shasta, California, that I would go down to see all the time, and she was not Christian. She didn't have this, but she would get in contact with sort of the Jesus energy, as she called it. And she was fond of changing words that we have and breaking them down and calling them something else. And the two words that came to mind when Carter was speaking was righteousness. She used to call right-useness, which I like. It's like, oh, that's all it is. It's not this fire and brimstone righteousness. And then the other one, which is atonement, which she would say at one meant. At one meant. So I'm going to invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing, "O Come, You Longing, Thirsty Souls," which is hymn number 209. And it's an invitation. And this was actually from Isaiah. I'm also from the Bible, and was sort of put to music by Ralph Vaughan Williams. Rafe Vaughan Williams, sorry.
Thank you to our musicians that performed such wonderful music today, and thank you to our tech team for getting us out there for everyone to see and hear. And I want to also thank Ellen Wanless for the beautiful floral arrangements off to the side. So, as always, it's a pleasure and a blessing to do this sacred work together. Today, after the service, the Environmental Justice Group will be holding its monthly meeting held on the fourth Sundays. This Sunday, August 27th, from 12:30 to 1:45 p.m. on the social hall stage immediately following the social hour. Everyone is welcome, and they hope to see you there. There's also a question to ponder. Hope is a verb as well as a feeling, so take that with you as you go down there. Members, do make sure to look at your Westside Weeks, which you will have received on Friday, for any additional information about upcoming and ongoing events. Our next Sunday service will be September 10th, Faithfully Becoming. This will be our Westside's in-gathering service. Make sure to attend the potluck immediately following the service in the parking lot and social hall. There'll be games, food, music. Also, there's going to be a lot of information about groups and communities here at Westside, and we look forward to seeing you there. Now, before we move on, I'm ad hocing another thing, going off script. That's the way Chris does. So, I just wanted to say a big heartfelt thank you to the congregation because today is my last service as a worship associate, service leader, amateur orator. It has been an incredible 4.5 years being behind the pulpit. Can you believe it? 4.5 years? It doesn't seem like that, but and this will be a good time for us to transition with the last Sunday service. So I wanted to just say thank you, and I hope to be able to watch what you're watching for a while and not have to think about, do we have enough candles up front? Is there enough oil in the chalice? Did I do a mic check before the service? So anyways, but thank you again, and I thank you for letting me share.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris, for your service. Coming in and getting oriented to how we do worship here, Chris, has been a big help. And so trying to speak to you while speaking into the microphone. But I just really appreciate your warm welcome and dedication to this community. And we look forward to seeing what leadership you take on next after a well-deserved break. So please rise in body or spirit for our closing words from Carl Seberg. Between the dawn and dusk of our being, let us be brave and loving. In our little passage through the light, let us sustain and forward the human venture, in gentleness, in service, and in love. And now, as Jim Angel releases our flame, may you go into this week blessed and blessing the world. We hold you in our love as you go.